What would you do if a package arrived at your house and everything in your life told you not to open it, but you did anyway? And what if the danger wasn't a stranger, but something delivered straight to your door? This is the true crime survival story of Daniel Harper, a freelance web developer living in Aurora, Colorado, whose ordinary life unraveled because of one package and 5 decisions he didn't think twice about. Daniel Harper worked from home. At 38, he had built a steady freelance career designing websites for small businesses. His days were predictable: coffee at 7:30 a.m., emails by 8, client calls by noon, quiet afternoons broken only by the sound of delivery trucks passing his street. His wife, Melissa Harper, was the opposite. Melissa loved shopping. Online shopping, specifically. Packages arrived so often that Daniel rarely questioned them anymore. Shoes, decor, gadgets, sometimes things she didn't even remember ordering. It was a running joke between them. So when Daniel received a text from Melissa one Tuesday morning, nothing felt unusual. "Hey babe, a package should arrive today. Please bring it inside." Daniel didn't ask questions. That was mistake number 1. A week earlier, Daniel had a confrontation that still lingered in his mind. Their next-door neighbor, Frank Miller, had been watching them again. Frank was in his late 50s, retired, and deeply invested in everyone else's business. He complained about trash placement, parking angles, noise levels that didn't exist, but his biggest issue was the fence. Daniel and Melissa had installed a taller privacy fence after someone repeatedly peered into their backyard. Frank hated it. "It blocks my view," Frank had snapped during their argument. "Your view of our yard." Daniel replied. The exchange escalated quickly. Voices were raised. Threats were implied. Police were eventually called, not for violence, but to document the dispute. No charges, just a warning to keep interactions civil. Still, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that Frank took it personally. If you had just argued with a hostile neighbor and a package you weren't expecting arrived days later, would that cross your mind? Tell me honestly in the comments. Because Daniel didn't connect the dots. Around 11:40 a.m., Daniel heard the familiar thud on the porch. A package, medium-sized, brown cardboard, no branding. He opened the door, grabbed it, and noticed something odd. The label wasn't addressed to him. It read, D. Harper, but the address was slightly off, 1 digit wrong. Daniel frowned. Melissa sometimes mistyped things. It wouldn't be the first time. He brought it inside anyway. That was mistake number 2. Taped to the top of the box was a plain white envelope. No return address. Just his name. Daniel hesitated. He told himself it was probably paperwork, or a warranty card, or something boring. He opened the envelope just enough to see folded paper inside, then stopped. Something about it felt wrong. The weight, the stiffness, the silence in the room. Daniel placed the envelope back on the box. He decided to wait until Melissa got home. That should have been the end of it. But curiosity crept in. At 12:17 p.m., Melissa texted again. "Did the package arrive? Don't forget to bring it inside. Porch thefts are getting bad." Daniel typed back, "Yeah, but it's addressed weird. Are you sure it's yours?" The reply came almost immediately. "Probably. I order stuff from everywhere. Just open it and check." Daniel sighed. He trusted her. That was mistake number 3. As Daniel stood in the kitchen, box on the table, he heard footsteps outside. Frank. Daniel recognized them instantly. Slow, deliberate, stopping near the fence. Then Frank's voice. "Got another delivery." Daniel froze. He hadn't opened the blinds. He hadn't gone outside. "How do you know that?" Daniel asked through the open window. Frank smiled. "I watch the street," he said. "Someone has to." Daniel's stomach tightened. "I'd appreciate it if you stopped paying attention to my house," Daniel said. Frank's smile faded. "Funny," he replied, "because you're the one who put up a fence like you've got something to hide." The conversation spiraled quickly. Accusations, sarcasm, old grievances dragged back into the open. Frank pointed at the box visible through the window. "You sure that's yours?" he asked. Daniel snapped. "Why do you care?" Frank leaned closer. Just saying, things have a way of ending up where they shouldn't. Daniel slammed the window shut. His hands were shaking. That was mistake number 4. Because instead of stepping away, he turned back to the package. Daniel sat at the table, staring at the box. He told himself he was being paranoid. He told himself this was normal. He told himself it was just another delivery. He reached for the envelope again. He didn't call the courier. He didn't double-check the address. He didn't wait. That was mistake number 5. Daniel had no idea that within minutes, his life would split into before and after. He didn't know the package wasn't meant for him. He didn't know the argument with Frank was a coincidence. And he didn't know that opening something he didn't order would nearly kill him. The moment Daniel Harper touched the package, everything happened at once. A sharp metallic click, a flash of white light, then pressure, violent, overwhelming, deafening. The blast threw Daniel backward across the kitchen. Glass shattered. Cabinets ripped open. The dining chair splintered as his body collided with it. The force knocked the air out of his lungs, leaving him gasping on the floor, ears ringing, vision pulsing in and out. The house went silent. Then the smoke came. Daniel tried to move. His arms didn't respond the way he expected. Pain radiated through his torso, hot and immediate. Blood pooled beneath him, but he couldn't tell where it was coming from. Somehow, later doctors would say it was pure adrenaline. Daniel crawled toward the hallway, dragging himself inch by inch before losing consciousness. Neighbors heard the explosion from blocks away. Frank Miller was the first person outside. When police and fire crews arrived minutes later, they found him standing in his driveway, hands raised, shouting that something had exploded next door. Daniel was pulled from the house barely alive. He had suffered severe injuries, burns, shrapnel wounds, collapsed lung, and internal bleeding. Doctors later said that if the blast had been even slightly stronger, or if Daniel had been standing closer, he would not have survived. Melissa arrived at the hospital in shock. Her shopping habit, something she had laughed about for years, now sat at the center of a crime scene. Federal agents were brought in immediately. This wasn't treated as a simple accident. The presence of a mailed explosive device changed everything. Daniel's home was sealed off. The neighborhood was evacuated. Bomb technicians combed through debris piece by piece. Investigators focused on motive. And there was one person who stood out immediately: Frank Miller. Frank had a documented dispute with Daniel. Police records confirmed the fence argument. Body cam footage showed Frank visibly agitated during the encounter. Neighbors described him as obsessive and always watching. He lived next door. He had line of sight to the delivery. He knew Daniel worked from home. Everything pointed to him. Frank was questioned for hours. His house was searched. Electronics seized. Tools cataloged. Trash bags examined. But nothing concrete surfaced. No bomb-making materials. No suspicious searches. No communication linking him to the package. Frank was angry but not guilty. Investigators shifted focus. The package itself had been heavily damaged, but fragments of the shipping label were recovered. Enough to trace the courier route. That's when something didn't line up. The address number was wrong. Not a typo, an entirely different house number that didn't exist on Daniel's street. The name D. Harper was correct, but the destination wasn't. That detail changed the direction of the case. Agents widened the search radius. 3 miles away lived another man with a similar name, David Harper. David had no connection to Daniel, but he had something else: a criminal history. David Harper had testified against an organized theft ring 2 years earlier. He had entered witness protection briefly, then resurfaced after authorities believed the threat had passed. The package wasn't meant for Daniel. It had been meant for David. Investigators pieced together the mistake. The sender used outdated records. An old name. An incorrect address. The courier system auto-corrected the street name, but not the house number. The package landed at the wrong door. Daniel's door. The letter attached to the box had been designed to ensure it was opened personally. By the time authorities confirmed this, Daniel was still in intensive care. With the correct target identified, investigators moved fast. Phone records tied the package to a man already under surveillance. Financial transactions led to a storage unit containing materials similar to those used in the device. Within weeks, 2 suspects were arrested. Neither knew Daniel existed. During interrogation, one of them said something chilling. He wasn't supposed to open it. Daniel's home was destroyed, but from the debris, investigators recovered enough evidence to secure convictions. The suspects were charged with attempted murder, use of an explosive device, and federal terrorism-related offenses. Frank Miller was cleared completely. The feud, the fence, the argument, it had all been coincidence. A tragic one. Daniel regained consciousness nearly a week later. He didn't remember the blast. He didn't remember the smoke. He only remembered the box. Doctors explained his injuries carefully. Recovery would take months, possibly years. His freelancing career was on hold indefinitely. When detectives explained the truth, that the package wasn't meant for him, Daniel stared at the ceiling and said nothing. Later, Melissa said that was the moment something inside him broke. Daniel survived, but survival came with consequences. He developed anxiety around deliveries, panic attacks triggered by doorbells, insomnia that left him awake until sunrise. Melissa blamed herself relentlessly. Their marriage changed. So did Daniel. He moved away from Aurora, Colorado, once his recovery allowed it. Sold the house, cut contact with neighbors, avoided routines, and he made one promise to himself. He would never open a package again unless he personally ordered it. Investigators later summarized the case during a safety briefing. The 5 mistakes that nearly killed Daniel Harper. Assuming the package was routine, bringing it inside without verification, ignoring address discrepancies, letting emotion override caution, opening something that wasn't meant for him. Daniel lived, but the margin was razor teeth. This wasn't a story about curiosity. It was about coincidence. About how violence doesn't always come looking for you. Sometimes it arrives by mistake. If you want more true crime survival stories that expose how ordinary decisions can become life or death moments, subscribe to this channel. More stories are coming.